What is going on, guys? In today's video I'm going to walk you through one of the best and fastest builds available right now in Path of Exile 2.3 update, aka the Lightning Arrow Ranger build. This is a setup that has been making waves across the community because of how effortlessly it can shred through the maps, crush bosses and scale into the endgame. If you are someone who enjoys a fast-paced range playstyle with the ability to delete entire screens of enemies in seconds, then this is a setup that you definitely want to try out. The strength of this build comes from combining Lightning Arrow's massive screen clearing power with the supporting mechanics like the Herald of the Thunder, Tornado Shot and the Lightning Rods for devastating single target damage. When you're mapping, it feels like you're constantly surrounded by the chain explosions of the lightning and a thunder, as the shocked enemies fall and trigger even more Herald procs. And when it comes to fighting bosses, you can just switch into a very controlled single target rotation that melts even the tankiest targets. What really makes this build stand out compared to the other setups in the 0.3 is its versatility. It clears like a zoom mapper, but also has the raw damage to take down pinnacle bosses. And on top of that, it's very forgiving to gear. And thanks to how Ranger works, you can solve mana problems with just one good stat roll or a single javel. By the time that you're properly geared, mana stops being an issue entirely, leaving you freely to focus purely on deleting everything in front of you. And remember, if you want to track this build, look up the best items, skill trees and the path of building, then check my link in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM. They are a pro website that provides POE2 services like cheap currency, then even to trade all types of quality items and gems and much more. They have also more than 20,000 positive comments on Trustpilot, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KAID for extra 6% off. So let's start with the core of our build, which is the active skill setup. We are playing as the Ranger class and we ascend into the Deadeye. The Ascendancy pairs perfectly with the Lightning Arrow because of the projectile bonuses and incredible scaling we get from its nodes. Your main ability is of course the Lightning Arrow. This is your bread and butter skill for clearing packs, and when arrows hit, it unleashes beams of lightning that chain out nearby enemies, freezing and shocking them in the process. Combine this with the Pierce, and each arrow can proc multiple arcs, which means that you can wipe out dense packs in seconds. For mapping, you'll be basically spamming Lightning Arrow non-stop. Then comes in the Lightning Rod, which is your go-to ability for single target fights. You plant rods under bosses and detonate them with your lightning attacks to cause massive bursts of damage. The more arrows you can stack, the more devastating your rod explosion becomes. And we also want modifiers that add additional arrows, as they multiply your single target output. Then Tornado Shot serves as our supplemental single target tool. When you place a tornado on top of the boss and fire into it, then projectiles split into novas that stack more damage on your target. It's especially effective when paired with the Lightning Rod. Then the Voltaic Mark is your curse setup. By applying it to the bosses, you not only increase the chance to shock, but also boost the effectiveness of those shocks, making them take even more damage. This single gem supercharges your boss DPS. Then Herald of Thunder is where your clear speed really gets pushed over the edge. Every time you kill a shocked enemy, the lightning bolts rain down and chain through the packs by creating a cascade effect. When combined with the chain arcs of the Lightning Arrow, this results in near infinite screen-wide clearing. And lastly, we will have Barrage in our rotation. We use it to empower the Lightning Arrow or the raw damage. It synergizes well with the other skills, which gives you a powerful cooldown option for the extra burst. Also, one extra tip, keep the Stormcaller arrow on the weapon swap. This allows you to inflict a massive 20-second shock on the bosses, which gives you a huge damage boost, especially in the early stages, before your gear really comes active. Now let's talk about the passive tree, because this is what really transforms the build into a powerhouse. For attributes, you will want to grab enough intelligence and dexterity to meet your gem requirements, and then dump the rest into strength for the extra life. Early on, don't worry too much about perfectly balancing your attributes. You can respec the hooded one or Doriani later on if the gear changes your requirements. Then the build follows a progression where you start with evasion base 3, then transition into a hybrid setup, and eventually go into a full critical strike focus tree once your bow is strong enough. That's because critical strike scaling will heavily rely on your weapon having a really good base crit and damage. Without it, the investment is just not worth enough. but once you get the right bow, the damage will skyrocket. In the endgame, you'll eventually move into the chaos inoculation if you want to completely ignore the chaos damage. This does require strong gear, but it makes your character much tankier against endgame content. The Ghost Dance will then serve as your main source of recovery. Overall, this setup emphasizes projectile damage, attack speed, evasion, and later critical strike multipliers. It's a natural fit for a bow ranger, and feels smooth when you progress through it. And again, if you're looking for skill orders, priorities, and what you should unlock, then check my link in the description. Then next for Ascendancy, we go with the Deadeye. The order of points is very important here. First, you will want to take the Gathering Winds, which will grant the Tailwind. This is a stacking buff that increases both the movement and attack speed, while also boosting your evasion. It's insane value early on, and makes you extremely fluid to play. Next, take the Point Blank. This node makes your projectiles deal significantly more damage at a close range. While you're generally fighting from a distance, this is a huge buff to your single target damage, since the bosses will often force you into a mid-range combat anyway. Then third, you will want the Endless Munition. This gives you additional projectiles, which directly increases your lightning arrow and the lightning rod output. More arrows mean more beams, more shocks, and way faster clear speed. And finally, you can pick up the Wind Ward. This adds a safety layer by reducing the damage of the big hits that make it through your evasion. It scales off your Tailwind stacks, so the synergy with the Gathering Winds is perfect. With these 4 Ascendancies, you're looking at a balance of movement, speed, and damage, as well as survivability, that perfectly supports the Lightning Arrow playstyle. Then the Atlas Tree is where you shape your in-game farming strategy. This build thrives when you focus on consistency and density. In the 0.3 update, the central part of the tree gives access to some incredibly strong notables for the essences, harvest, the strong boxes, and delirium. You'll invest heavily into the middle and the lower sections, where harvest and the essence will provide reliable crafting opportunities, and even guaranteed encounters. On the right side, you will path towards the strong boxes and the Legion expeditions for more monsters and loot explosions. And then on top, you'll invest into the bossing nodes that improve Conqueror, Maven, and the Elder Shape encounters. The idea here is not to spread too thin. Instead, you're clustering around key synergies. For example, the strong boxes plus essences will guarantee a consistent value, while Harvest will offer deterministic crafting option. Together, these setups will let you steadily generate profit without relying too much on RNG. Overall, this Atlas tree is designed for players who want a steady currency generation, while having the option to tackle endgame bosses whenever you choose. It's flexible enough to support farming strategies while still making sure that you're always progressing. Then next up we have gear, which is always a huge part of any build, so let's break down what you exactly need. Your first priority is capping your elemental resistances at 75% across the board. Fire, cold, and lightning resistances will need to be maxed before you do anything else. For weapons, your goal is to get the highest DPS bow that you can, and in the best case scenario on a Gemini base, look for high elemental or physical damage and increased attack speed. If you find a bow with a critical strike chance, then it's even better, because that is what unlocks your crit scaling later. Then the quiver should have a flat damage, attack speed, or projectile modifiers. Projectile speed is also a great bonus, because it makes your lightning arrow feel much smoother. Then on rings and gloves should focus on the flat damage and resistances. Ideally, you want a flat lightning or the physical damage here to scale from your attacks. Your amulet should provide spirit, since you will need at least 30 if you want to run the Rockei Mountain or the companion with the K-Stara. Then for the chest armor, prioritize the high evasion. Once you're pushing red maps, rarity becomes very valuable, so aim for at least 100% increased rarity if possible. But don't sacrifice damage or defenses just to hit that number. Then Jevels on the tree should provide generic damage bonuses, so things like the attack damage, elemental damage, movement speed, projectile damage, and even attack speed. One Jevel must have a Sapphire Jevel with a mana on kill. This completely fixes the mana issue during mapping. And finally, anoint the Serrated Edge on your amulet for a solid damage boost. The core principle of gearing is simple. Upgrade your bow first, then focus on defenses like evasion and energy shield, and finally fill in your resistances and damage stats with the accessories. And now finally, let's see how to actually play this build. For clearing maps, it's simple. Just fire lightning arrow into the packs. Herald of the Thunder will take care of the chaining explosions, and your arrows will arc lightning through everything in a sight. Then against tanky rares, you can drop the lightning arrow to speed up things. For bosses, your rotation is little more involved. Precast about 20 lightning rods where the boss is going to spawn. If possible, also drop a frost bomb for the extra debuff. When the boss spawns, immediately apply the Voltaic mark, then then weapon swap to cast the ball lightning for a huge shock uptime, then fire tornado shot directly on the boss, and then use the brush to empower your arrows. Once that's set up, you just spam lightning arrow and watch the health bar disappear. If you're fighting pinnacle bosses like the Hesh or the Arbiter, then the same rotation applies, but requires a bit more precision. Overall, if you build it correctly with the mid-tier gear, you can one-shot even the toughest bosses. The beauty of this build is that it's almost brainless. You just pretty much spam one button and clear entire screens in a split second.